Hi everyone, and welcome to our look at the competition for the 1999 model year. In December, you'll be receiving comprehensive information about the strengths and weaknesses of our competitors. While that information will give you specific vehicle details and head-to-head comparisons, this program is going to take a different approach. In the next few minutes, I'll give you my take on a handful of 1999 models. Now, most of them have a lot to offer, but it's helpful if you know some of their weaknesses. I have an insider's look at the competitive field, and I'm ready to share some of what I know with you. So grab your pens and prepare to learn a few things about the 1999 competition from my point of view. Let's begin with the 1999 Pontiac Grand Am. From a distance, it's got that cool look that draws you in for closer examination. But bad idea. The corrugated plastic cladding that covers the bottom third of the car is just plain unappealing to a lot of folks. Of course, even if a customer is willing to accept the exterior styling, the Grand Am's ride is pretty good. It's got the quick acceleration and sporty cornering agility that many will appreciate. The optional V6 engine offers the power promised, but performance enthusiasts may be surprised to know that the V6 engine is the same one found in GM's minivans, an out-of-date 2-valve per-cylinder pushrod unit. Now, you can't fault an auto manufacturer for creating efficiencies in developing engines for their vehicles. You may, however, find some weaknesses in the Grand Am, several of them being in the interior. The driver's seat's supposed to be improved, but to some it may have the feel of second-hand furniture. The heating and air conditioning controls are inconsistent. One is easy to turn while the other is stiff. And those small lights that are designed to illuminate your gear position are not as visible at night as you might expect, and the center console looks cheap. Grand Am has the driving performance of a strong power plant, but the steering is lifeless and road noise is noticeable in the passenger compartment. The Honda Accord is larger, more powerful, and full of refinement. Now, this car is no slouch, but it's not as perfect as some members of the press would have you believe. From a performance standpoint, the 4-cylinder engine on some models seems sluggish in the passing lane, and the V6 lacks low-end torque. It's slow off the mark, and it makes the Accord a chore to drive in city traffic. The automatic transmission is slow to kick down on hard acceleration, and it shudders slightly on upshifts. And from a styling standpoint, the Honda Accord is just plain boring. Remember that kid's game, King of the Hill? It seemed no matter how big and brawny the kid at the top of the hill was, you could usually find his weak points and bring him down. Of course, sometimes you can find the weak points and only make him stumble a bit. And the case in point is the 1999 Toyota Camry. It's got a lot going for it, and it's a top seller in its segment. But like the bully on the hill, it does have some weaknesses. For 1999, the Camry is largely unchanged from the previous model year, with the exception of the addition of daytime running lamps and a few enhanced options. That said, Camry is still boring. From the exterior to the interior, the styling is bland. Behind the wheel, Camry offers plenty of power and control with its cushy suspension. But look out for the soft steering. It's very light, which can make Camry difficult to control on damp or slick surfaces. And its original equipment tires don't help in this area either. That soft suspension that some will love also sends jolts into the passenger compartment, even over small bumps. On the inside, apart from the nondescript styling, some of the instrument panel items don't seem to fit well together, and some trim colors don't match up well at all. Anyone on the market for a roomier large car will most likely take a look at the 1999 Chrysler 300M. It's touted as Chrysler's most luxurious sedan, and with this build-up you'd expect something nearly perfect. Well, the 300M is impressive, but it's nowhere near perfect. It's got plenty of power from the 3.5-liter V6 engine, but whether using the manual feature on the automatic auto stick or allowing the automatic transmission to do its thing, in some models, it tends to shudder in low-speed downshifts. Customers in search of luxury amenities will find many on the 300M that fall far short. For instance, the air conditioning is inconsistent. You either get blasted out of your seat or there's barely a breeze. The 300M doesn't offer a retained power feature that lets you operate the windows once the ignition's turned off. And the cup holders on this luxury sedan are wimpy, and throughout the interior there's a heavy use of thin plastic parts. Chrysler cut some corners on the interior, and it's obvious. From a safety standpoint, customers with little kids should be aware that the safety belts on some 300M models don't hold a child's seat tightly. Well, moving from cars to minivans, let's begin with the 1999 Honda Odyssey. It's got the only four-wheel independent suspension available on a conventional minivan. It handles well and has plenty of power, but at the same time it has its flaws. One of the reasons people purchase minivans is for the room and the convenience of having different seating configurations. Like other minivans in the segment, the Odyssey allows the owner to move the seats around. Well, that's easier said than done. These seats are heavy and they're awkward and take a real effort to move them into the configuration that you might want. You'll want to tell your prospects who may be looking at Odyssey to actually try to move the seats around. Let me tell you, they won't be pleased. They probably also won't like the lack of choices for Odyssey, just 2 trim levels in 4 colors with no available leather. Other annoyances include automatic temperature controls that actually work best when they're controlled manually. Finally, a security concern is the mini spare located under the floor between the first and second row seats. Once again, you have to go through some rather aggravating maneuvers to get the seat out of the way to access the spare. And after that, you can't put the flat in the same compartment. Honda gives you a bag to store the flat in the rear of the vehicle. Bottom line, the conveniences that you'd expect in a minivan are actually bothersome in the new Odyssey. Confusing. That's the best way to explain the appearance of the 1999 GMC Denali. It's a full-size luxury sport utility positioned to be the Cadillac of full-sized SUVs. Here's the confusion. Denali is nothing more than a tricked-up GMC Yukon with a very hefty price tag. And Cadillac has its own luxury full-size utility, Escalade, which is really the Denali in just another set of clothes. Just imagine how confused luxury utility customers must be. Now, Denali is loaded with all the extra touches a luxury utility buyer demands, but all of those extras make it fat. It weighs over 5,500 pounds, and when that happens, it brings the cargo capacity down to just a little over a half ton. Now, that may not be much if you're buying a utility vehicle for its utility, but if you're buying it for its comfort and convenience features, you'll be disappointed there too. To begin, the ride on some models rattles more than it should, and the wipers are noisy. The instrument panel on the console look cheap, and the power seat switches are hard to find. Denali is a capable luxury SUV, but it may fall short in some of the areas that people who shop the segment really want. If your customers are shopping the new Jeep Grand Cherokee, ask them one question. Are you a risk taker? This is a utility that Chrysler says is completely overhauled in every respect, and that includes their brand new 4.7-liter V8 engine. And despite the overhaul, it's remarkably similar to its 1998 predecessor, although last year, Grand Cherokee had more cargo space. The 99 still offers cramped quarters for people and their stuff. The rear cargo room is shrunk to just 39 cubic feet behind the rear seat. And if you fold the seat down, you get 72 cubic feet. We simply have more room. Now, Jeep says the cargo space is actually more versatile in the 1999 because the spare tire is moved to under the floor inside the vehicle. To do that, however, they had to reduce the size of the gas tank to just over 20 gallons from 23. If the cramped interior weren't bad enough, the Grand Cherokee still hasn't strayed from the orange tone imitation wood throughout the interior. Grand Cherokee drives reasonably well, but the 99 keeps the old recirculating ball power steering, which doesn't offer the sporty control of our rack and pinion. If you were to examine the 1999 Chevy Silverado on paper, you'd be impressed. It does indeed appear to be bigger, faster, stronger, and smarter as the way Chevy's advertising it. But when you get behind the wheel, Silverado's description on paper is a bit inflated. It's trying to catch up with our top-selling F-150, but the Silverado still falls short. The new Silverado and the GMC Sierra replaced the 10-year-old Chevy CK and previous generation GMC Sierra pickup lines. One thing that has not been abandoned, though, is the boxy, dull styling that is becoming almost a trademark of a Chevy truck. Silverado's extended cab has plenty of room available to get in and out of the passenger area, but it offers only 3 doors. Now, the F-150 extended cab has 4 doors standard. 4 doors are simply easier. And while Chevy says Silverado's bigger, In terms of some of the interior dimensions, the 99 Silverado is actually smaller than its predecessor. On the working end of the truck, Silverado may be able to claim more cargo volume than the previous truck, but it still falls short of the F-150's cargo capacity. Chevy's new V8 engines have just a squidge more horsepower than our Tritons, but torque or pulling power is the real measure of a work truck. When it comes to torque, Ford's Triton engines dominate and do it at lower RPM. In terms of maintenance and convenience, Silverado owners who opt for the available locking rear differential will need to service their vehicle every 30,000 miles. The F-150's available limited slip differential requires no regularly scheduled maintenance. Simply put, plenty of hype has preceded the introduction of Silverado, but customers are going to be disappointed when they get behind the wheel. One final truck worth mentioning is the 2000 model Toyota Tundra. Toyota becomes the first transplant to play in the full-size pickup segment, and they're the first out of the box for the 2000 model year. Right off the bat, Toyota presents Tundra as more of a personal use truck than a work truck. They've devoted a lot of time and energy to trying to perfect Tundra's handling, ride comfort, and interior noise isolation. Tundra will hit showrooms in May of 1999, offering a 3-liter V6 or a 4.7-liter V8 with a variety of configurations, including the Access Cab, which is equipped with 4 doors. Preliminary reviews are few, but indications are that Tundra breaks no really new ground in terms of features offered. That said, it's also expected to carry a larger price tag when compared to a comparably equipped F-150. If early numbers from Toyota are any indication, Tundra is lacking in some important areas when compared to the F-150. For example, the F-150's V6 has more horsepower and torque than Tundra's V6, and when it comes to tough working capability, preliminary numbers showed the F-150 on top in maximum payload and towing capacities. Well, that's just part of the competitive picture for the 1999 model year, but it should give you some good information to start with. Be on the lookout in December for the complete competitive comparison. It'll be your best resource for the latest information on the 1999 competitive field. I'm Gerry Conover. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me, and good luck in the 1999 selling season.